We continue our working day now. I would like to invite volunteers. Olga Kobylinska, coordinator of Charity Fund Come Back Alive, and Tetiana Dzhafarova, volunteer of People's RIA Association. They will be talking about the situation in Debaltseve, what happened there, and that's according to volunteers. Work on the mistakes and conclusions for the future to avoid similar situations in the future. Good afternoon. You know the situation, what happened in Debaltseve. We as volunteers who for more than half a year were supporting this hot point in ATO map. We are interested in organizing the correct work on mistakes, what was done correctly, what was done incorrectly, what we managed to do. We, the Fund Come Back Alive, sent to different units which were around Debaltseve, 35 thermal vision devices, 12 night vision devices in Gostra Mogila, which is a strategic height because it was under our control. Debaltseve was under the control of Ukraine. Received from us the thermal vision device, which operates 20,000 meters at the range 20,000 meters, and it allowed our artillery to shell precisely. Now they are taken out of Mogila Gostra. They in Konstantinivka. Center 169 is not led to rotation, and they are being prepared for another operation. This retreat from Debaltseve was prepared 2 days before the troops were withdrawn, and we believe that during 2 days quite an organized retreat could have been prepared, but it didn't happen. It looked like they were jumping out of this of Debaltseve, but not retreating. And it was not because the preparation was organized bad in Kiev, but because the middle level of officers, who in many cases were not there, they were commanding the defense from headquarters. They did not know how many people they have in their units, and they did not know any real situation in Debaltseve. I believe the investigation should be conducted why this happened. So another big problem of a hasty retreat was that our troops did not have equipment and the vehicles, the machinery ready, even to take away the personnel, and for that they did not have enough vehicles. The soldiers were trying to get on the armored personnel carriers, 20 persons on one armored personnel carrier. We believe that for the last 2 weeks the volunteers could not get to Debaltseve, and they could not help in repairing the transportation vehicles, and that is again we need to draw conclusions from that. We need to create mobile repair crews of volunteers that could move quickly along the front line and who could quickly help in repairing transportation vehicles, and who could have the permanent communication with the units to know what spare parts are needed. The volunteers were waiting on their transportation vehicles for troops in yellow zone. They were leaving from red zone. They would take those who were killed and those who were wounded and were taking them to Artemivsko-Kostiantynivka. This is one of the problems and one of the conclusions that we make. And today we understand that we need to reinforce the positions where Ukrainian forces are, and these are approaches to Kostiantynivka and Artemivsk. We do not know what separatists and terrorists have in their heads. So the fund Come Back Alive calls upon all the sponsors to get consolidated. We understand that there is the crisis situation and it's difficult for everyone, but we need to reinforce these approaches. And the next hot point is approaches to Mariupol. We're working all the time on providing all the needed equipment, thermal vision devices, night vision devices, and other things, but that's not enough. We need to do everything possible not to allow another defeat in that direction, because Mariupol is not Debaltseve, it's much bigger city. And another important thing that we've been talking about is development of the general plan of evacuation from pre-frontline towns. Today, the deputy head of Donetsk state administration meets the volunteers in Kramatorsk at 3 o'clock. At 3 p.m., the volunteer from our fund will be there, and we will raise this issue. All the pre-front towns are to be trained quickly. The population should be trained quickly on what they have to do if there is an offense by Russian troops, and that is what we'll be doing in the nearest future. We would like also to understand in more details what in reality happened in Debaltseve, why the withdrawal of troops from Debaltseve looked like jumping out of Debaltseve, who is guilty in that. They're still calculating numbers of those who perished, who were wounded, and who were taken prisoners. One of our battalions, according to our information, still maintains their positions. They exchanged their prisoner in war for the prisoner in war of separatists. According to them, in Gorlivka, there are many people in captivity from Debaltseve. He believes that about 30 people, they are in basements in Horlivska hospital. And again, the urgent issue is exchange of prisoners, especially they're treated inhumanly. The prisoner who was exchanged had his knee shot and he spent just 2 days in captivity. You can imagine what was happening with people who have been there for weeks. So we call upon all those who are involved into the exchange of prisoners of war to pay attention to that and to find out how many prisoners of war of Ukrainians are in Horlivka. And now I would like to give the floor to Tetiana Dzhafarova.
Good afternoon. Recently I was working on medical staff, and they were working for evacuation of the wounded, and also they were working in Artemivsky hospital. But the main flow of wounded came. The main issue was in the speed of evacuation. We didn't have enough ambulances, and there's always a lack of them. But the critical situation when the events were developing quick, it showed that we lack transportation means, and Mostly this evacuation is done by volunteers. Military men are doing that from the red area. A lot of ambulances got under shelling, and those they were broken. They were not able to evacuate the wounded and perished. So we need to look at these teams in a centralized way, and every team should have 2-3 cars, vehicles. Those they should be in working condition. Then evacuation was of the wounded. We evacuated them to hospitals in Artemivsk and Kramatorsk. In Artemivsk hospital, usually 30-40 wounded arrive a day, but that number was more than 180 a day, and yesterday there was more than 130. As you understand, the staff cannot handle that amount, and there's not enough of medicine. Nobody expected that events would develop so quick, and nobody. There was the demand was higher, and materials they had they expired of them. They were calling volunteers, bring. So we were collecting quickly, and we have several bank accounts we have to cover. Today is Friday. In order to send fixation device when bones are broken, we needed to pay and ship to, but there should be a reserve, and there should be a warehouse, and the hospital should have enough to be ready to handle with such flows. There's not enough of coordination and communication during evacuation of the wounded. There is an issue of radio stations and coordination. It would be impossible. It would be important to have a staff that would coordinate that, and like the work of military men, of evacuation, of ambulances, and information what hospital has and which resource and which hospital is filled. So it's our project, and we are talking about that for long. We need to have an information hub or staff, and they should have information, and and they should coordinate an evacuation and reception to hospitals. What we plan in advance. Now we would like to draw your attention to the fact how the situation will develop in near Mariupol. For us, not to have such a situation like we had in Debaltseve, we would like to predict how we would like to have hospitals, mobile hospitals. There are 3 of them. One is near Artemovsk, and it's a time to plan events for future, and to start to put those hospitals in operation. I told you there is a lack of staff in hospitals, and of average staff and nurses. We don't have enough of them. On enthusiasm, young girls go and work as volunteers, but this is not professional. There should be professional staff. That professional staff, we call you, please, who can speak to hospitals, go and work, because you are needed there. Doctors go from Kiev to work there for a week. They say that there's not enough of. So they need normal, adequate, professional, mid-level medical staff. And Ministry of since we have ATO, but not the war, then Ministry of on emergency, they don't participate in providing medical assistance, and they have professional experience because they are doctors. There's a little bit different than just civilian doctors. All the hospitals are organized on the base of they use regular hospitals, and they just have basic equipment, medical equipment. We added a lot. We brought a lot of equipment, medical equipment, which allows to work under extreme conditions. But that base, we have civilian hospitals. We have re-equip them with the staff and provide the staff. Then, what do we want to do in the future? We have the 4th wave of mobilization, and a lot of they're training. It's important to train them how to use first aid kits. They are trained militarily how to shoot, how to fight, But we need to volunteers to do that. We need to train them how to use first aid kits, because that's basic knowledge they should have. They must have. And first aid kits are not issued to them when they have trainings, but after the training, before they send to the east. We hope that that will happen. The state, maybe volunteers, and all together, all of them will have a individual first aid kits, and they will be trained how to use that. So, judging how the situation will develop in Debaltseve, we would like that towns and cities and villages that are close now to the combat zone, it's important that they look at the hospitals, what they have, look at the resources, and make requests in advance. Predict the flow of wounded they could have. We wouldn't like the situation to happen like in Debaltseve. So we should save lives of our soldiers. We cannot do otherwise. So we need to plan for the future, and we need to take lessons. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your questions to our speakers. Okay, everything's clear. No questions. Thank you, colleagues. And we are waiting for you next week with the updated information.